Penguin Random House Audio presents The Dictionary of Lost Words by Pip Williams. Read for you by Pippa Bennett-Warner.
Prologue, February 1886. Before the lost word, there was another. It arrived at the Scriptorium in a second-hand envelope, the old address crossed out, and Dr. Murray, Sunnyside, Oxford, written in its place. It was Da's job to open the post, and mine to sit on his lap, like a queen on her throne, and help him ease each word out of its folded cradle. He'd tell me what pile to put it on, and sometimes he'd pause, cover my hand with his, and guide my finger up and down and around the letters, sounding them into my ear. He'd say the word, and I would echo it. Then he'd tell me what it meant. This word was written on a scrap of brown paper, its edges rough where it had been torn to match Dr. Murray's preferred dimensions. Da paused, and I readied myself to learn it. But his hand didn't cover mine, and when I turned to hurry him, the look on his face made me stop. As close as we were, he looked far away. I turned back to the word and tried to understand. Without his hand to guide me, I traced each letter. "What does it say?" I asked. "Lily," he said. "Like Mama?" "Like Mama." "Does that mean she'll be in the dictionary?" "In a way, yes." "Will we all be in the dictionary?" "No." "Why?" I felt myself rise and fall on the movement of his breath.
A name must mean something to be in the dictionary.
I looked at the word again. "Was Mama like a flower?" I asked. Da nodded.
The most beautiful flower.
He picked up the word and read the sentence beneath it. Then he turned it over, looking for more.
"It's incomplete,"
he said. But he read it again, his eyes flicking back and forth as if he might find what was missing. He put the word down on the smallest pile. Da pushed his chair back from the sorting table. I climbed off his lap and readied myself to hold the first pile of slips. This was another job I could help with, and I loved to see each word find its place among the pigeonholes. He picked up the smallest pile, and I tried to guess where Mama would go. "Not too high and not too low," I sang to myself. But instead of putting the words in my hand, Da took 3 long steps towards the fire grate and threw them into the flames. There were 3 slips. When they left his hand, each was danced by the draught of heat to a different resting place. Before it had even landed, I saw Lily begin to curl. I heard myself scream as I ran towards the grate. I heard Da bellow my name. The slip was writhing. I reached in to rescue it, even as the brown paper charred and the letters written on it turned to shadows. I thought I might hold it like an oak leaf, faded and winter crisp, but when I wrapped my fingers around the word, it shattered. I might have stayed in that moment forever, but Da yanked me away with a force that winded. He ran with me out of the Scriptorium and plunged my hand into the snow. His face was ashen, so I told him it didn't hurt. When I unfurled my hand, the blackened shards of the word were stuck to my melted skin. Some words more important than others. I learned this growing up in the Scriptorium. But it took me a long time to understand why. Part 1. 1887 to 1896. Batten to Distrustful. May 1887. Scriptorium. It sounds as if it might have been a grand building, where the lightest footstep would echo between marble floor and gilded dome, but it was just a shed in the back garden of a house in Oxford. Instead of storing shovels and rakes, the shed stored words. Every word in the English language was written on a slip of paper the size of a postcard. Volunteers posted them from all over the world, and they were kept in bundles in the hundreds of pigeonholes that lined the shed walls. Dr. Murray was the one who named it the Scriptorium. He must have thought it an indignity for the English language to be stored in a garden shed. But everyone who worked there called it the Scrippy. Everyone but me. I liked the feel of Scriptorium as it moved around my mouth and landed softly between my lips. It took me a long time to learn to say it, and when I finally did, nothing else would do. Dar once helped me search the pigeonholes for Scriptorium. We found 5 slips with examples of how the word had been used, each quotation dating back little more than 100 years. All of them were more or less the same, and none of them referred to a shed in the back garden of a house in Oxford. A Scriptorium, the slips told me, was a writing room in a monastery. But I understood why Dr. Murray had chosen it. He and his assistants were a little like monks, and when I was 5 it was easy to imagine the dictionary as their holy book. When Dr. Murray told me it would take a lifetime to compile all the words, I wondered whose. His hair was already as grey as ash, and they were only halfway through B. Dar and Dr. Murray had been teachers together in Scotland long before there was a Scriptorium, and because they were friends, and because I had no mother to care for me, and because Dar was one of Dr. Murray's most trusted lexicographers, everyone turned a blind eye when I was in the Scriptorium. The Scriptorium felt magical, like everything that ever was and ever could be had been stored within its walls. Books were piled on every surface. Old dictionaries, histories, and tales from long ago filled the shelves that separated one desk from another, or created a nook for a chair. Pigeonholes rose from the floor to the ceiling. They were crammed full of slips, and Dar once said that if I read every one, I'd understand the meaning of everything. In the middle of it all was the sorting table. Dar sat on one end, and 3 assistants could fit along either side. At the other end was Dr. Murray's high desk, facing all the words and all the men who helped him to find them. We always arrived before the other lexicographers, and for that little while I would have Dar and the words all to myself. I'd sit on Dar's lap at the sorting table and help him sort the slips. Whenever we came across a word I didn't know, he would read the quotation it came with and help me work out what it meant. If I asked the right questions, he would try to find the book the quotation came from and read me more. It was like a treasure hunt, and sometimes I found gold.
This boy had been a scatterbrain, scapegrace from his birth.
Dar read the quotation from a slip he had just pulled out of an envelope. Am I a scatterbrain, scapegrace? I asked.
Sometimes,
Dar said, tickling me. Then I asked who the boy was, and Dar showed me where it was written at the top of the slip.
Aladdin and the Wonderful Lamp, he read.
When the other assistants arrived, I slipped under the sorting table.
Be quiet as a mouse and stay out of the way, Dar said.
It was easy to stay hidden. At the end of the day, I sat on Dar's lap by the warmth of the grate, and we read Aladdin and the Wonderful Lamp. It was an old story, Dar said, about a boy from China. When I asked if there were others, he said there were 1,000 more. The story was like nothing I had heard, nowhere I had been, and no one I knew of. I looked around the Scriptorium and imagined it as a genie's lamp. It was so ordinary on the outside, but on the inside full of wonder. And some things weren't always what they seemed. The next day, after helping with the slips, I pestered Dar for another story. In my enthusiasm, I forgot to be as quiet as a mouse. I was getting in his way.
A scapegrace will not be allowed to stay,
Dar warned, and I imagined being banished to Aladdin's cave. I spent the rest of the day beneath the sorting table, where a little bit of treasure found me. It was a word, and it slipped off the end of the table. When it lands, I thought, I'll rescue it and hand it to Dr. Murray myself. I watched it. For 1,000 moments I watched it ride some unseen current of air. I expected it to land on the unswept floor, but it didn't. It glided like a bird, almost landing, then rose up to somersault as if bidden by a genie. I never imagined that it might land in my lap, that it could possibly travel so far. But it did. The word sat in the folds of my dress like a bright thing fallen from heaven. I dared not touch it. It was only with Dar that I was allowed to hold the words. I thought to call out to him, but something caught my tongue. I sat with the word for a long time, wanting to touch it, but not. What word? I wondered. Whose? No one bent down to claim it. After a long while, I scooped the word up, careful not to crush its silvery wings, and brought it close to my face. It was difficult to read in the gloom of my hiding spot.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?